It's 8 a.m. Leave me alone. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Boy, here with a brand new video guys today. Welcome to my channel. Do all things to algorithm likes. Today we're gonna watch Ackman's video on is there any hope for Halo as we continue to dogpile on my favorite game franchise of all time, Halo, and all the turmoil and nonsense that's going on with it. But this is a reaction video. Hope you all enjoy. As always, every time I do a reaction video, the original video is linked in the box below. Right up with my Twitch link, which you also follow me on Twitch every Monday through Thursday. 6 Eastern to midnight. You guys might see this video today, which is Wednesday, February 1st. So we'll be playing some Midnight Suns for the first hour, and we might be doing a new Elden Ring playthrough, or we might be playing Hi-Fi. So come by, let's watch Ackman and see what he has to talk about.
What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and today it's been a while since my last Halo video. Let's check in on how things are going.
12 seconds later.
Joe Staten is leaving the studio to rejoin Xbox Publishing.
No, God!
It's done, bro. It's done.
No, God, please, no!
Joe's gone.
No!
Joe is gone.
No!
Joe Staten has left 343.
It's not fair!
This is a studio that was hit especially hard by the layoffs, and it's raising some concerns about the future of the Halo franchise.
Can Halo just catch a break, man? Like, the bad luck should have run out by now, unless 343 was built on an Indian burial ground.
Sometimes that is better.
Given the events between the release of Halo Infinite and now, I think we're all a little bit worried about the future of the Halo franchise. This is a topic that
I'm actually not worried.
Rarely discussed on the channel. Yes! As I'm sure you've heard, bad news. Microsoft and many other tech companies have announced loads of layoffs in preparation for a recession that, once again, I'm sure Obama is responsible for. Damn you, Obama! But there's quite a few angles to this story, and I hope to cover them all. More importantly, I hope to answer the question that is no doubt burning in so many people's heads. How could this happen to Halo? And of course, we've got other fun questions.
Let me be honest
like
with you, before he even gets started, Halo's downfall started with Halo 2. Now, when you hear that sentence, you like, what the fuck are you talking about? Halo 2 was like, the revolutionary of online gaming. You're a fucking idiot. True, I am an idiot, and yes, Halo 2 is a revolutionary video game, but when I say Halo 2 was the start of the downfall for Halo, I mean development-wise. Bungie did not want to make a Halo 2. Like, literally, there's videos about this. There's literal documentaries about the Halo franchise when it comes to like Bungie. Halo 1 was supposed to be a one-and-done video game, and Bungie didn't really want to do a Halo 2, but they were like so on doing it regardless of not wanting to, and it was in development hell. Like, it was a rough game. A lot of developers were like were getting depressed. Some people were quitting. Like, it was a rough game. Halo 2 was a rough game for Bungie, and then like they finished it. It came out, everything went well for the game for the most part. There were some issues when it comes to like bugs and whatnot, but generally the game came out and the rest is history. Halo 3 kind of had the same situation. It was definitely way more polished, way better development time period for Bungie, but they were also at the standpoint of this is the last Halo game. Every Halo game since Halo 1 was supposed to be the last Halo game when it comes to Bungie, and they were like, all right, Halo 3 is it. Halo 3 is gonna be the last Halo game. We're trying to work on Destiny, which is why if you play ODST, you can see Easter eggs for Destiny and ODST. So like Bungie's already ready to like get started on doing Destiny. They're ready to be done with Halo 3, and there was still some issues there. People still were like, some development issues, some crunch time. But because of the success of Halo 3 and success of Halo ODST, Bungie made Halo Reach, and again, the development of Halo Reach was actually fine. But again, it's the same sentiment when Bungie was like, okay, this is the last one. This is the last one. So Halo's issues, development-wise, not game-wise, development-wise, has always been present when it comes to Bungie.
Would 343 continue developing the Halo games? Or is it time another studio had a crack at it? Definitely a hot topic of discussion. And what do these job cuts mean for the future of Halo? And
I know we're pausing again. I don't think there's like the issue here. I think the issue, they've made some mistakes. Like 100% they've made some mistakes. 100% they need some people in 343 who worked on, at least Halo 1 and Halo 2 to like not even like really develop, but like just, kind of direct the shit. Like, think about like Dark Souls. Miyazaki didn't work on Dark Souls 2. And Dark Souls 2 is kind of the black sheep of From Software games. Had he been there to like direct the direction Dark Souls 2, it will be a more well received game and it'll be a better game. Same thing comes when it comes to Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy was rough until Yoshi P kind of like, they were like, all right, everyone loves Final Fantasy 14. Yoshi P, you're basically in charge from here on out, and you know, things been smooth. Halo 343 needs more OG Bungie people within it, and also they need to understand that they don't need to make Halo identity wise a different game to have Halo be a good game. You know what I mean? Also, the id Software thing is kind of like hinting at maybe the people who make Doom, because id Software makes Doom, to make Halo.
343. What is the state of Infinite right now? Are they gonna unfuck the TV show in season 2?
What are you doing?
So many questions, so much uncertainty. Now, before we jump any further into it, this video is sponsored by Bespoke. Bespoke is a website that offers all sorts of themed boxes of goodies. Every month they introduce new boxes and all sorts of awesome stuff inside them. There's a huge variety. You could get a knife set, some new boxers,
Nice.
cigars, fine whiskey straight from the saloon, and my personal favorite, the Scorch box, filled with all sorts of amazing hot sauces. Each box contains items worth $70, but only costs $49. And if there's one thing you gotta get, it's the Weekender bag. The perfect carry-on for any situation. You get to preview the contents of the box, and if you don't care for it, you can switch it out or skip the month entirely at no extra cost. When signing up, you'll take a short survey to gauge your interests, and then boom, solid recommendations right there. And use my special link, bespokepost.com/act20, and enter the code ACT20 to get 20% off your first box. And use my special link in the description and pinned comment to do so. Treat yourself right. And thank you to Bespoke for sponsoring this video.
And now for something completely different.
The recent layoffs and important staff leaving 343 has left loads of room for speculation and rumor. As some said, 343 was retiring as a Halo developer entirely. Former employees have come out to speak about piss poor management at Microsoft. It just seems like this is kind of a fucking disaster, you know what I mean? Now, where to begin untangling this? Well, Microsoft will be laying off 10,000 employees between January 8th and June 30th. And this wasn't a targeted drone strike, okay? This was blind fire into the crowd. Pretty much all aspects of Microsoft's business will be or probably have been hit by these layoffs, including their subsidiaries like the Coalition, Bethesda, and of course 343. You might have noticed something odd about this, namely the timing, because coincidentally the announcement that they will be laying off 10,000 employees comes a year to the day, exactly 1 year to the day, that Microsoft announced they were buying Activision Blizzard. Now, I'm no gambler, but it seems like a 1 in 365 chance of that happening. And to go with an age-old quote,
But as one trained in the Force, you know that true coincidences are rare.
So they're likely making room for this colossal takeover, which got me thinking, how many people work at Activision Blizzard? 9,800. Awfully close to 10K.
But as one trained in the Force, you know that true coincidences are rare.
Now, I want to say that layoffs like these are always really tough on a lot of hardworking people that don't necessarily deserve to lose their jobs. I hope all the people who lost their jobs can land on their feet and get a new one. And please don't attack or be an asshole to anyone at 343. You know, now's not a good time to ask, hey, when are Playable Elites coming back? You already know the answer. It's never. So this begs the question, with all these studios and IPs Microsoft has or is acquiring, do they?
Might be a minority when it comes to this, but I have never given a single fuck about Playable Elites. Just never have. Like, Arbiter and Shipmaster are like the only elites I give a fuck about. So when it comes to Playable Elites, I don't really care. When it comes to like creating your own Spartan for multiplayer, I'm that person who kind of puts themselves into like the character. I don't want to be an elite, so I can't role play as an elite. My brain doesn't want to role play as an elite. I'm role playing as a motherfucking Spartan, and we just going in, you know, butt naked with a fucking BR and some plastic grenades.
Need as many people to work on Halo. Maybe the Halo franchise is determined to just not be as profitable, so they're pulling resources from it. You know, why?
I know we just paused. We're going to pause again. That last line might be more true than not about Halo not being as profitable. Reason why I say that is Halo is kind of becoming more of a niche game than not, kind of like Doom. You know, when it comes to FPS genre right now, you have your games that are like going to be successful no matter what because they're casual games, aka Fortnite, Apex, Call of Duty. Those are casual games. There's not a massive learning curve. You can be dog shit at those games, have a point freaking 3 KD, but sometimes you might pop off and drop 20 and have a good game. That's why people love those games so much. More niche games are kind of doomed to be kind of like in a different subcategory of FPS games, where they'll be popular enough and they'll make back their budget and then, you know, a little bit of profit, but they won't be like massive. Like, they won't be the best selling games of that year, aka Halo. You know, the last few games, it's not looking for the issue. It's more just, it's a niche game. There's a huge learning curve to Halo, and a lot of people who are younger aren't getting into Halo. Halo's kind of becoming more of like a, I don't want to say dad game, but it's kind of in that same category as like Battlefield and Rainbow Six Siege and CS:GO and Gears of War, where it's like, you know, there's not a huge amount of people who are like just just running to these games. They're games that have a big learning curve. They're games that aren't the easiest games to play, aren't the easiest game to master, and you will, if you're not good enough at these games, you're going to get steamrolled, and the game doesn't care. The game's not going to hold your hand. These games won't hold your hand. You're going to go in there and get your ass beat. And I feel like Halo's in that category, and because it's in that category, because it's not a casual game, because it's a game with a big learning curve, it's mostly going to be relying on a hardcore crowd. It's not bringing in new people, and you could say, well, they could bring like, you know, younger people in their teens, you know, if they see some streamers playing it and getting into it. But also at the same time, you gotta have streamers who want to get into it. Like, you're not really seeing Shroud play Halo, and maybe Microsoft throw some money at him, get him to play some Halo. Like, sometimes you gotta like bite the bullet and do some better marketing to increase your chance of getting some casual gamers. But even then, they might still like leave the game, because again, it's not an easy game to play if you're not a Halo veteran. So the whole thought process that potentially it's not a profitable game might be true, because it's becoming more and more of a niche shooter, because it's not like the other games. It's not like Overwatch. It's not like Call of Duty. It's not even like Battlefield. Battlefield's also in the same category of being more niche than not. But at the same time, you know, Halo, it's still I would say like a more complex game to play than Battlefield at the core of it. And if you don't know how to do all the mechanics of like Halo, same thing comes in Gears of War, you won't enjoy the game. If you can't wall bounce in Gears of War, if you don't know how to use certain weapons in Gears of War and don't know how to maps flow, you're going to hate that game. And it comes Halo. If you don't know how to freaking move, how to maintain the movement and pace the commando or the DMR, and, you know, do good at getting headshots with the BR and, you know, smart movement and all that kind of stuff, you're going to hate the game.
Invest trying to revitalize this thing that hasn't worked for the better part of a decade, when you got Call of Duty coming in, and Call of Duty always sells. Even when everyone agrees the games are shit, it still tops the charts every year. Now I could be talking out my ass when I give this take, but it seems kind of odd for a company to cut jobs in a business that's doing really well. Now, I did hear from an inside source at Bungie something interesting. They said in 2008, a year after Halo 3 released, an unprecedented economic crisis hit the US and the world. Bungie ended up hiring more people and made ODST and Reach. It's not always the economy. From what we've heard, 343 has lost about 60 employees, with 30 of those coming from the art team alone. Certainly doesn't bode well for Infinite, given the already sluggish pace of updates, their eternal struggle to deliver promises and meet deadlines, and provide any semblance of a live service. Most of the cuts were geared towards the campaign art and animation teams, which has pretty much destroyed any idea of Infinite Campaign DLC. I thought that was going to be a given when the game first came out, and then they just had those lame-ass story events that I think they've abandoned now.
My gear. It's not standard issue. It's necessity. History.
Neil Harrison, the former director of art management, was among one of the layoffs. So basically, the art team that gave us this. The team that finally gifted us the Halo art style we have been waiting for. Are they just all gone now? It's also important to note that Microsoft is cutting 10K jobs over a period of time. This didn't just happen at once, which makes it all the more interesting to me why 343 was hit immediately, you know? Like, I'm just trying to put all the pieces together to get an accurate reading on the state of 343 and, by extension, the state of the Halo franchise. I don't think it's looking good. Now, a former 343 employee came out, Patrick Wren, and said, the layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened, and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. The reason for both of those things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be. And Jason Schreier from Bloomberg seems to agree with this statement, and it pretty much confirms what I've heard about behind-the-scenes development, which brings us to Joe Staten, our boy.
Well, I'll be honest with you, it kind of seems like Halo Infinite probably shouldn't have had a shadow drop. Because basically when it came to Halo Infinite, the multiplayer came out in beta the day it was announced. Like the day they announced multiplayer beta, it came out that day. And the beta was basically the full game. They just called it a beta because, you know, they were still working on it. And the full game isn't going to come out until December. I'm doing air quotes on purpose because betas are just basically just a full game. You know, and we were all loving it too. We were all like sucking the dick of 343 when it came out. It was like, oh, Vanguard is so bad. Thank God 343 came out with Infinite. Battlefield 2042 was so broken. Thank God for Halo Infinite. And then months went by and we're like, this game actually isn't all that. It's buggy as hell. It's lacking content. The Spartans look like shit when it comes to like the mold of the character. They look too non-human. They just look like a very, you know what I mean. They don't have that ass. It just didn't look right. And when it comes to like the whole leadership thing and like it just sounded like they needed to delay. It sounded like they needed to delay the entire game, not just the multiplayer, but the campaign as well. Like, like this game needed a delay, and they probably didn't because the Xbox Series X was out and it needed its flagship game because Halo's supposed to be the flagship, franchise of Xbox. So it needed to have Halo out. So they kind of just rushed the game out because the Xbox Series X needed Halo.
He has not technically been laid off from 343. He is leaving to resume his position at Xbox Publishing. It is a sad day. Now, technically we should have expected this since this was kind of the plan the whole time, but the timing is like right alongside all of these layoffs. The timing is just really bad. One might say sus. And to see someone like so revered by the Halo community leave at a time like this, you know, it sucks, man. Wouldn't it have been great if Joe was working on more story elements? It seemed like every time he appeared in a video is just to deliver bad news, you know? It's like, oh, what could have been? So amidst all this controversy, people started to speculate that 343 would be given the boot from Halo entirely. Let's give it to id Software. Let's give it to Infinity Ward or Treyarch or nope, fucking keep it away from Sledgehammer. Actually, let's reel that idea back. But some of these rumors garnered so much attention that it warranted an official response from Pierre Heinz, who's now the head of 343. He made a short statement on Twitter that reads, Halo and Master Chief are here to stay. 343 Industries will continue to develop Halo now and in the future, including epic stories, multiplayer, and more of what makes Halo great. The word vague comes to mind, right? You can't say the franchise is in a good state when it is necessary for leadership to come out and say, don't worry guys, we all still have a job. Like, we're still gonna be making Halo. Could you imagine if Nintendo was like, don't worry fellas, we're still gonna be making Mario games? Like, at what point does that happen? What does it say?
I'll give them benefit of the doubt. I'm just as more of like I want to say a full devil advocate, but I give them benefit of the doubt. If people are making like reports saying that 343 is done with Halo, you kind of have to come out and be like, hey, it's not. You know, like I understand them coming out and being like, hey, 343 is still making Halo games. Everything's fine when it comes to that idea of making Halo games, which Acme is saying like, that's kind of like bad time. Like, I'll give you an example. This is more sport related. Recently, as of yesterday, the Broncos have traded, some picks to the New Orleans Saints to be able to hire Sean Payton as their head coach. A lot of verified sport analysts and experts in football were saying that Sean Payton had a horrible experience with the Broncos ownership and that there was no chance Sean Payton would be the Broncos head coach because he hated his experience. Sean Payton himself retweeted some of those little bullshit takes and was saying, this isn't true. I had a great time. I had a lovely time, and I would love to be the Broncos head coach. This is a few days ago before he even became like the head coach. So sometimes you got to come out and just say bluntly, that's not true. That was a lot, and also in pro wrestling, because you have like the dirt sheets. The dirt sheets report all this nonsense, and sometimes wrestlers got to come out and be like, look, that's not true. And so I see when it comes to Pierre Heinz, maybe that's his last name, apologies, that, you know, people are saying 343 is done, that they're not making Halo games anymore, and Microsoft's mad at 343 and things like that. At some point, you do got to kind of come out and be like, look, it's fine. 343 is making Halo games. Yes, we need to improve some things, and we're working through some stuff, but 343 is making Halo games.
About the state of things. Like what? Imagine what could have possibly prompted such a response to be necessary? The reaction to the statement from Pierre has been interesting. You've got some people relieved that things aren't going to change and that 343 is still going to be in the loop on things, and you've got others who are disappointed, not reassured. But I also think it's funny when he says epic stories, right as the time that they're laying off a whole bunch of the campaign team.
The endless
I mean, again, we're pausing. I know people hate when I pause too often. I will say this, though. Firing 60 people, though it sucks, you have to, like, assume that 343 is probably, like, massive. Like, you have to assume... Yeah, you got to assume 343 is massive. I actually just looked it up. 343, at the time of this video, before the firings, has 450 employees. So if you fire 60, you still have 411 employees. That's a lot of people who's still there, and you have to imagine that, you know, a good portion of them are still you know, working on campaign stuff. Like, they didn't fire the entire campaign team. They didn't fire the entire art team. They fired people within those categories. And I'd imagine with NX60 also include people from the multiplayer team, but they just didn't, like, it wasn't announced or anything like that, because at the same time, we don't know everything. We know what we've been allowed to know. We know what's been leaked out. We don't know everything. So we don't know if 60 is even like the real number. We don't know if it's just the art team and just the campaign team. We don't know. So you could say that, like, you're making, you know, the epic stories, and that's mostly just a comment, not for the now, but for the future, where it's like the next Halo game and the next, like, maybe they're going to go back to making like Halo Wars 3 and things like some more sub content and not just the mainline Halo games. So it's like, hey, there's more Halo coming. Just, you know, basically just getting you a little excited and giving you some kind of hope. I don't view this guy's comments, Pierre's comments, as like anything other than trying to stabilize the community and give people who are fans of Halo some form of hope.
So we're probably not gonna ever learn what the Endless are. I'm telling you. With 343's track record, this will probably be a plot point that they just kind of like solve off screen, and the next Halo game is gonna once again reboot the story. You know, I still to this day don't fully understand what has been happening at the studio that has caused it to be so dysfunctional, to have not a very productive or conducive workflow. I don't work there, so, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt, but, you know, there's been barely any updates for Halo Infinite despite the large workforce on paper. Player numbers are, well, let me just put this on screen for you. That about sums it up. Even if this was in July, Infinite should not be underperforming what is objectively the worst Battlefield game ever. Then you got Microsoft's company-wide hiring freeze, which has been going.
I want to say it generally, Battlefield 5 is worse than Battlefield 2042. You can pull up the Steam charts or whatever, but as someone who's a massive Battlefield fan and like legitimately plays these games a lot, you know, not as much as I play Halo, but I play them a lot, including Battlefield 2042, but a lot of time Battlefield 2042. 2042 went through the same issues that every Battlefield game goes through, where at launch it's garbage. But in 2022, when the game released, 2021 when the game released, people weren't as interested in giving a game time to like fix its problems. At this point, we're all tired of that shit. Your games have to work and have to work right the fuck now, or we're not playing them. So Battlefield 2042 died on, like, was DOA because of that. Battlefield 5 fucking sucks. Like, that game's awful. Like, it's the worst Battlefield game, and Battlefield 1's not too far from behind that. Both those games are dog shit. Sorry to anyone who's a Battlefield 1 fan or Battlefield 5 fan. I hate those games. Those games suck. Like, they just do. Like, the story of Battlefield 1 was kind of cool. Multiplayer was I would consider Battlefield 1's multiplayer to be the start of the downfall of Battlefield. Like when it comes to like not having enough guns and pretty ugly and shitty maps, like that was the start of it. Battlefield was the start of it.
On for God knows how long, which meant even if 343 needed more hands on deck, they just couldn't get them. Not to mention Microsoft being stingy and weird as hell with its practices on contracted work, which, as Patrick Wren says, is a whole other can of worms. Can I just say, Microsoft, your strategy with contract work is clearly not working out. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. Fable trailer came out 2.5 years ago. Not a peep since. Elder Scrolls 6, ladies and gentlemen, it has been 4.5 years since the trailer. And I get that Bethesda's working on Starfield, but this is a pattern I'm noticing with a lot of Xbox exclusives. We get a trailer, and then it's years of nothing. Like huge chunks of time, years before we get any kind of update. Like think about this, we didn't see multiplayer gameplay for Infinite until 5.5 years after Guardians released. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's not just one thing that's been holding Halo back from the glory of success. Now,
this is your chance.
I ain't watching Last of Us until I play the game. They aren't on PC yet.
Now, I want to take this section of the video to look at some of the notable people that have left 343 in recent years. And my goal in doing this is not to point the finger and say, haha, number company bad, but rather to illustrate how much talent and experience had been at the studio and is no longer there, to offer some kind of explanation for the studio's current woes. Chris Lee was head of production for Infinite for 2 years and has gone off the grid after leaving Halo, which I find very strange because normally a lot of developers, they don't like leave social media entirely after they leave a video game project. I don't know, but he left at the end of October 28th, 2020. He had been working at Microsoft since 2003 and was involved in the production of Reach ODST 4 and 5. Tom French, multiplayer creative director and the head of development on Forge for Halo 5. He left December 2022.
I'm gonna say, can we just talk about like how there was only people from the art team in the campaign who left the game, who got laid off. I guess multiplayer. Multiplayer, like that's not very good too. So
our boy Tom was at 343 for 11 years. Quindell Hoyle, Halo Infinite lead sandbox designer, left shortly after Infinite's release. He spent 9 years with the company. Mary Olson, Halo Infinite lead producer, was with 343 for 7 years and stepped down less than 2 months after taking that position from Tim Longo, who was the Halo 5 and Halo Infinite creative director but left in 2019. He was there for 6 years. Sparth, Infinite art director, left 343 after 14 years. Andrew Witz, Infinite multiplayer lead, left the company on March 4th, 2022. He had worked on Infinite since 2019. David Berger, technical director, been with 343 since 2008. One of the lead creators of the Slipspace engine, he left just days after Bonnie Ross. Aaron Lind, lead writer, left 343. Jerry Hook, online design director, then later head of...
You mentioned Split Space. One thing that has been confirmed within new news from Microsoft, they're actually abandoning Split Space engine, which is Halo's own like engine. Like it was an engine made for Halo specifically. They're leaving that for Unreal. There's still gonna be like some games that use, because they said like future Halo games will still use Split Space, but most of them, like the main ones, are going to be using Unreal Engine 5, which makes sense because Coalition also uses Unreal Engine 5, and we're going to start seeing Unreal Engine 5 be more like the common things to use, and people are going to start abandoning their own engines.
Designed for Infinite, left 343 on May 25th, 2022, after working with Microsoft for over 20 years. And finally, Bonnie Ross, the matriarch of Halo, who was there at 343 from its inception, and who recently stepped down after 15 years.
And y'all gave her shit. Like, him included. A lot of people in the Halo community gave her a lot of shit. Like, he wasn't like being as harsh as a lot of people were. There was a lot of people who I saw on Twitter, you know, in game chats who were just so disgusting towards Bonnie Ross. But now that she's gone, where everyone's trying to, like, you know, be nice towards her and things like that, and, you know, paint the picture that she was so amazing she shouldn't have lost her job. Like, when she left, me and Andrew Conweezy, who's a guy I know within the stream community, talked about how, like, everyone who plays Halo knows how shitty the community was towards her, and that we kind of felt like part of her leaving was part, not just because of video games, but also how the community reacted towards her. It's like, you know, it sucks. I actually like Bonnie. Bonnie seemed like a very cool person. When she spoke, she sounded like she had like a lot of passion for Halo. But you know, things happen in the development room that we as gamers aren't aware of that can lead to, you know, cancellations, that can lead to delays, that can lead to you know, not getting split screen or not getting this or that because of whatever's going on, you know, in development that we just aren't privy to know about.
Leading the Halo franchise. Not every one of these people left 343 because of some, you know, mad Kim Kardashian type drama, but it's like the turnover rate of senior and executive staff, it's a lot, man. It's weird looking back on some of the trailers and Vidocs and seeing like all the people who are no longer with the company. It seems to me when this many people with that much experience leave a company, there's just this massive vacuum of knowledge left in its wake. The thing is, I'm not sure how many people currently at 343 have been working on Infinite since the beginning and are now working on the live service. You get what I mean? So to me, it makes sense why updates and fixes are taking so long for this game, because most of the people working on the game didn't write.
And we're gonna pause again, but you know, considering the state of Infinite, considering how it launched, considering how bad multiplayer is, wouldn't it make sense? Wouldn't it make sense that, you know, the people who are losing their jobs because the game that they put out isn't good? You know, you gotta, if you want to keep your job, you gotta put out some good products. It's kind of like generally how it goes, generally. So it's like, you can't really like be surprised that this layoff happened and these people are all resigned and things like that. When look at the product and look at what everyone who plays Halo games, who are content creators, have been saying about the product. Ackman has a lot of negative videos about Halo Infinite. There's other content creators who have a lot of negative videos about Halo Infinite. You can't make those videos and you have all these people on social media and on forums and then be surprised at the outcome when it comes to losing their job.
The code they're trying to fix. At least that's what I gather. I could be wrong. Whatever the issues seem to be behind the scenes, like why, you know, it's not quite coming together all the way, whatever the reasons are, Microsoft has remained the one common factor in all of this. It seems swapping people out of important roles at 343 has not produced the results they want. Infinite was delayed a year. It's been 7 years since the release of Guardians. And like, where is Infection? Like, why is something like Infection so hard? You know? Maybe Microsoft was always intent on killing the goose that laid the golden egg, and when they got a new goose that laid bronze eggs, well, they had to kill that one too. Just my theory. And to go back to the topic of contractors, do you ever take a few minutes to skim the endgame credits? Well, if you do, you might notice that some names, actually quite a few names, have parentheses indicating what company they were contracted from. There's a lot of parentheses. Look at how many different collaborating studios they worked with and contracting companies. Airship Images, Atom Hawk, Axis Studios, Certain Affinity, Counterpunch, A Virtuous Studio, Experis, Insight Global, Lakeisha Digital, Liquid.
I mean, I think mentioning Certain Affinity is kind of silly because Certain Affinity is an Xbox company, a Microsoft company. So it's like, of course, it's a common thing for a studio to have another studio within the company work with the game. For example, when it comes to like the Halo remakes, what's it called? What was that studio name? They basically did all the cutscenes. They did like all the cutscenes for the Halo remastered stuff. So it's not like a new thing. I think it was Blur Studios were the ones who did it. And when it comes to like Certain Affinity, and I should just put it up. They made multiplayer DLC for Halo 2. So they're not new to Halo. They co-developed Halo Waypoint with 343. They made a multiplayer DLC for Halo Reach. They co-developed Halo 4 343. They co-developed Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary with 343. They're the ones, not 343. They are the ones who made the Halo Master Chief multiplayer and have been working on it since then. And then as you know, see, they worked on Halo Infinite. So Certain Affinity is a studio who isn't like some kind of like new to Halo kind of like contracted worker. They are a Microsoft company who has been working on Halo since Halo 2. They've been helping with Halo since Halo 2. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like everyone else you can mention, I feel like Certain Affinity is not a name to mention, in my opinion.
With development, Mandalay Games, Mindwalk, Noir Studios, OF3D, Pixel Mafia, Red Hot CG, Room 8 Studios, Skybox Labs, Sparasoft, The Coalition, and Undead Labs. I can't even imagine the logistics behind working with that many different companies, let alone trying to get your own studio on the same page, and like trying to get everybody in a rhythm with a singular goal and a single vision of what the game should be. And if you look very closely at the credits, you might notice something very interesting. That being the section on testing. It appears that...
Sorry, I'm looking away. This is being recorded on February 1st. You guys want to see this? We don't usually upload our reaction videos same day. Usually like a weekend after we didn't record it, but this is gonna be kind of like literally like right after. I'm gonna edit it and put it up right after I watch it. But Tom Brady just retired again, so that's why I was looking over to like trying to look at it.
Most or all of Halo Infinite's testing was done by contractors. If I'm not mistaken, a similar thing happened with Cyberpunk, and well, we all remember what that was like at release.
City of dreams, city of gang, 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 gang. City of dreams, 70 crank.
So like, if you want to find a reason, the reason I'm talking about like the workforce and the contracting employees is that the biggest issue with development of Halo post Bungie has been the lack of a consistent vision for what Halo should be. Like I said, Halo 4 feels like the start of a new trilogy, and then we get 5, which feels like the start of a new trilogy. Same thing with Infinite. I think what 343 does a lot of is they incorrectly identify what the problem is and then overcorrect it.
Cybersecurity is in such high demand.
That's the issue. I'm telling this to like Jay-Z, for example, that a lot of studios and developers are very heavy-handed on what they change. They look at the negative feedback that they're getting and they overdo it. This isn't just everything. This is every studio right now are overdoing it when people are critiquing their games. Like 2K, Jay-Z is a 2K guy, and 2K is like constantly freaking like changing things in the game that makes the community mad. And it's like, well, we tried to fix this thing you guys said was broken, but they overdo it. Number 3, people bitched about Halo 4. Now people are more into Halo 4 over time. People bitched about Halo 4, and everybody was like, okay, they didn't like that, let's change it up and do this instead. People bitched about Halo 5, and they're like, okay, they didn't like that, let's do this instead. So that's why they keep doing it. They're overdoing it. They're overdoing what they need to change instead of like, just doing some small changes and then see how the community reacts to it, and then go from there. That's not how you should do a trilogy. You have your blueprint, which is like your first game, and then you look at what people didn't like, what they complained about, and you do some small changes, and then the second game you see how they react to those small changes, and you go from there.
Well, think about the co-op mechanics in Halo 5 and being able to command Spartans around. Something could have been done with that in Infinite. The problem wasn't the co-op mechanics themselves in the campaign. The problem was you had 3 AI companions from start to finish, and the entire game was balanced around it. But imagine if some of that work was salvaged and put into Infinite. Let's say now you can command Marines. Hey, go get in that Warthog, drive it over here. Simple shit like that. It adds a new layer to the game. You've already done some work on it. That's just how my brain thinks. Here's a more tangible example. How about all the unused assets and hundreds of weapons they made in Halo 5? Like, where is the Mantis? I feel like the Mantis should be in Infinite. So many sandbox tools were, they weren't perfect in 5, but they were good. Like the CE Magnum, the Halo 2 battle rifle. Again, things that you just think should be in the game. It just seems like 343 has a let's cut our losses and start over philosophy. And that needs to end, dude. Again, look at Elden Ring and look at Mario Odyssey and Smash Bros. Ultimate. Those games all built up to that final ultimate title that is just, that's what Halo Infinite should have been. The Smash Bros. Ultimate of Halo. 343 has had a lot of amazing ideas that they've left half-baked. And I'd rather eat a half-baked potato than a frozen one. Halo is a series that needs a consistent vision and a consistent team to pursue that vision.
We always had this vision right from the get-go, which was anyone can build anything.
Giving the fans the tools they can take and run with it and make it their own.
And when you've got a fucking carousel of leaders, executives, and contractors going in and out, it's hard to maintain that consistent vision. Halo should have assassinations. The game would only be better with assassinations or playable elites. Forge should have been there at launch. Griffball. These are just staples that should be there. We all agree. We all understand it. Campaign co-op. It should just be there. Think about split screen co-op. That was the first thing they ever announced for the game that would become Infinite.
Can we reveal anything about the next Halo FPS title today?
I think the only thing that will confirm,
and as I said before in this video, they probably really wanted to have that kind of stuff in a game, but behind closed doors, they got to meet that deadline. Again, 343 is just developers. The publisher, Microsoft, wants that game out. Doesn't matter. You already got a delay. You already had a 1-year delay. The game has to come out so we can have our flagship for the Xbox Series X. It has to come out this date. You gotta cut some losses. Again, I know I'm just being a very apologist for 343. I'm also just being a realist. There's things that they likely wanted to have in the game at launch and wanted to have by now that isn't there because of having to cut losses, having to not have the time to make things, having to meet deadlines, and they just got to cut certain things out. You know, does it suck? Yeah, but you got to be realistic. You got to be realistic to understand the fact that there's a potential that they had all these things planned out and they couldn't meet those plans because they didn't have the time for it. And when it comes to that, that's Microsoft. At the same time, if they did delay Halo Infinite again, a lot of people would have complained about it. Because it happens with every game. Whenever a game gets delayed, there's people who are understanding about it and like, okay, the game isn't ready, it can wait. But also people who are like, man, this is garbage. Fuck this shit. This team sucks. It makes somebody else make the game. That happens. Are they a minority? Sure, but it happens. And regardless of which group 343 or any development studio freaking hears from, they see it. And I'm not really giving them an excuse because, you know, at the same time, you still gotta make a game and, you know, allocate your time and your resources accordingly. But at the same time, you know, there's a deadline.
As we do listen to fans, there will be split screen.
Liar! The first thing we learned about the game coming after Halo 5, it was gonna have split screen co-op. They didn't even know what the fuck the title was, but they knew that. It just seems like 343 wasted a lot of time in pre-production being unable to figure out what direction to take the game in. You know, there's so much unfinished work in the files for Infinite that we've seen. Like, people have known about Infection since before the game came out, I think. And it just feels like so much work from people has been rendered superfluous or was like a waste of time, or nobody has bothered to finish work on certain things. Like the smoke screen and the bandit rifle. It's just, making a great Halo game is real fucking hard. But that's what makes it special, you know? They set Halo up for failure.
Attitude reflect leadership, Captain.
And to see former 343 staff say that and blast the leadership, well, it indicates to me that the lack of vision started from the top and it trickled down. That's why Halo is in the state that it's in. But to come back to the main question, is there any hope for Halo? Well, there's always hope, but I think if you're happy with the state of things, then you were naive and wildly unrealistic. Realistically, I think at this point the 343 brand is associated with a lot of negativity in parts of the community. I think it all comes back to Microsoft, in my opinion. All of this falls squarely on Microsoft's shoulders, I think. Because at the end of the day, they own the franchise, and they've owned it for a long time. They are in charge of who is in charge. Simple as that. You know, to whoever is going to continue developing the Halo games, I just hope you have a consistent vision for what you want to do. A consistent vision of what makes Halo great. Build on the success of the franchise instead of tearing it down to start anew every few years. See if you can salvage some of the work and reuse certain assets from previous titles to make new ones feel more complete. So in conclusion, it is another sad day for Halo, 343 and Halo fans. But we will persevere. I don't know what the future holds, but I'd be lying if I said things are looking better. But thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video.
All right, well, that's a good video. You know, Ackman always poses like some really good topics and good conversation pieces, and you know, he's very good at letting what his opinion is being known, whether you agree or disagree with him. There's a lot of things in that video that I agree with, a lot of things in that video where I feel like, you know, maybe should have had a little bit more, not, I won't say thought, that's not the right word to use, but like, again, you know, you get, from the way I look at things, I look at things from both perspectives. I look at it from the business perspective, look at it from the development perspective, look at it from the fan perspective. You gotta look at it from all the angles before you like kind of say certain things. It's like, again, good video, but I kind of feel like there's too much, you know, non-realistic thought processes when it comes to like the game should have all these game modes, when it's like they probably had all the plans for that but couldn't because of like time. And maybe they would have more time if they didn't restart the game 3 times, you know. And that's true, they shouldn't have restarted the game 3 times, but again, like I said, developers are heavy-handed nowadays, and they see what people are complaining about and they overdo it. You know, and as I said, they probably should have had what Halo 4 was and went from there and just change up minor things here and there instead of basically just restarting over and over again. A lot of studios do that. A lot of studios, they'll make a game, and if people are mad about how that game is, they won't just be like, oh, okay, we're sorry, we'll take it back to what it was. Like, no, they'd be like, all right, we'll change some things to you guys like this. Again, Call of Duty. Call of Duty, when it came to Advanced Warfare, everyone's like, yo, this jetpack shit sucks. They didn't be like, okay, well, from now on, no Call of Duty games will have jetpacks or features of movement, things like that. No, Black Ops freaking did it anyways, and people loved it because instead of just getting rid of the exosuits and whatnot, they just refined it and made it better. That's what you should do. When people complain, you don't have to remove what they're complaining about. Just fix it. You know, redesign what it is. You don't have to abandon. Like, you don't have to abandon what the Halo 4 story was trying to point out. Just change certain things up. You don't have to abandon what Halo 5 story was. Just change certain things up. But that's not what they did. So if they didn't do those things, yeah, they might have had more time to have a more polished and more complete release for Halo Infinite. And when it comes to the future, I'm actually pretty hopeful. You know, I think that you gotta fail sometimes to understand that you need to do things better. You know, Halo 4 wasn't a failure. Halo 5 got a lot of complaints, but it wasn't a failure. Halo Infinite is going to be that stamp for Microsoft and 343 and Xbox, where it's like, we fucked up and we gotta do better. And that's just how it is. They're gonna look at Halo Infinite as that black sheep of Halo, where it's like, yeah, we can't do that again. But anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Do all these algorithm likes, support the channel, give Ackman a follow or subscribe, give him a like, watch the original video will be linked in the possible below. I'll catch you guys on my live stream for the watch. We're doing live stream today at 6 p.m. Eastern time to midnight. We're gonna start off playing some Midnight Suns. Then we're gonna play some Hi-Fi. Maybe I might play some Halo. Who knows what will happen after that? Depends on if I do or don't like Hi-Fi. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. If you're just someone who watch YouTube videos, you see new video tomorrow. This video basically almost every day. But your boy, y'all stay safe, treat yourselves, be kind. I'm out here. Deuces.